Zara, an alien scientist from the far-off planet Valtor, had been dreaming of this moment her whole life. Earth was a planet unlike any she had studied, a place full of creatures with minds and bodies far different from her own people. Earth had a strange reputation in the galaxy. Many aliens called it odd, wild, or even primitive. But Zara was deeply curious. She couldn't help but wonder what made humans so unique. The Galactic Council had finally approved her research visit to Earth, and as her spaceship entered Earth's orbit, Zara's 4 eyes sparkled with excitement. She'd spent years reading about human anatomy and culture, but now she'd get to see humans up close, observe their behaviors, and, most exciting of all, study their anatomy in person. As Zara's spaceship descended onto a quiet field just outside a small city, she took a deep breath and prepared to meet her human research partner, Ethan. She'd been assigned to work with him for the duration of her stay, and he was supposed to introduce her to human life. She hoped he wouldn't find her too strange. After all, she had blue skin, silvery hair, and wore a thin, high-tech bodysuit that looked almost like liquid metal. She was worried humans might not be ready for her unique appearance. The spaceship door slid open, and there was Ethan, standing tall with a curious look on his face. He was young, handsome, with bright eyes that looked both intelligent and kind. Zara stepped out slowly, and for a moment they just stared at each other in silent fascination. To Ethan, Zara looked like something out of a dream, an otherworldly beauty who seemed both strong and gentle. To Zara, Ethan looked surprisingly fragile, with soft skin, warm brown eyes, and a smile that seemed to reach out to her. Ethan was the first to speak, his voice warm and welcoming. "Hello, Zara. Welcome to Earth. I'm Ethan, and I'll be helping you learn all about humans." Zara's voice, smooth but slightly metallic-sounding, replied, "Thank you, Ethan. I am very curious about humans. I've studied a lot, but now that I see you, I realize there is so much I do not know." Ethan chuckled. "Trust me, humans are full of surprises, but I guess you might be too." They walked towards a nearby research center where Zara would be staying. As they moved, Zara couldn't stop studying Ethan's movements. The way he walked, his balance, even the way his arms swung by his sides, all of it fascinated her. Human bodies seemed so different from her own species, who were tall and slender but moved with more fluidity. Humans seemed sturdier, with thicker bones and powerful muscles that flexed under their skin. She wanted to ask him 1,000 questions right then and there, but she held back, not wanting to seem rude. Once they reached the research center, Zara carefully set up her equipment, which she had brought from Valtor. Ethan watched in amazement as she unpacked small devices that floated in midair and holograms that projected intricate alien symbols and charts. "This is some advanced stuff," he said with a grin. Zara felt a rush of pride. Valtor's technology was some of the best in the galaxy. When everything was ready, Ethan sat down across from her. "All right, Zara, where would you like to start?" Zara looked at him thoughtfully. "I want to understand the human body, but not just from books or holograms. I want to know how it works, how every part helps you move, think, and feel. For instance," she paused, studying his face closely, "why do you have such a variety of facial expressions? When you smiled at me earlier, what did that mean?" Ethan laughed, a warm sound that made Zara's heart, or the alien equivalent, skip a beat. "That's a good question. Humans smile to show we're happy or to make others feel comfortable. It's like a silent hello or a sign that we're friendly." Zara nodded, taking careful notes. "And why are your eyes such a warm color? On Valtor, our eyes are silver, and they reflect light instead of showing color." Ethan shrugged. "I guess it's just biology. Different pigments in our eyes create different colors. Brown is pretty common on Earth, but we have people with green, blue, even gray eyes. I suppose it's one of the things that make us unique." Zara's curiosity deepened with every answer. Humans were such a colorful, expressive species, so much more than she had imagined. She marveled at how their bodies seemed built, not only for survival but for connection and expression. The more Ethan shared, the more questions bubbled up in her mind. She wanted to know about their laughter, their touch, their heartbeat. How did all of it come together to make someone like Ethan? The day went on with Zara firing one question after another and Ethan answering each with patience and humor. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over them, Zara realized something surprising. She was starting to feel a connection to this human beyond just her scientific curiosity. It was the beginning of an unexpected friendship, one that might lead to something she couldn't even imagine. Zara's fascination with humans grew each day, especially her interest in how their bodies worked. Now that she was finally here on Earth, she wanted to learn everything she could, and Ethan was more than willing to help. He found her questions both surprising and amusing, and Zara's curiosity kept him entertained. Their study sessions took place in a small lab at the research center. Zara had set up a few of her alien devices to help with her research. Some of these gadgets could scan the human body and show detailed images of muscles, bones, and even the nervous system, all projected in the air as holograms. Ethan had never seen anything like it and was just as curious about her technology as she was about human anatomy. One morning, Zara decided to start with what she found most interesting: the human heart. She had read that the human heart was responsible for pumping blood throughout the body, and that it could beat faster during times of excitement, fear, or exercise. But she wanted to see it in action. "Ethan, may I study your heart?" Zara asked with her usual direct curiosity. She was holding a small, floating device in her hand, which she explained would show her a live hologram of his heartbeat. Ethan chuckled, feeling a little shy. "Sure, go ahead. But don't be surprised if my heart starts beating faster around you. It tends to do that with new experiences," he said with a smile. Zara didn't fully understand what he meant, but she activated her scanner anyway. A 3D hologram of Ethan's heart appeared, pulsing in midair, with every beat echoing softly. She watched with wide, fascinated eyes as the heart pumped blood through his veins. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Your heart is so alive. It's constantly working, even when you're resting." "Yep. That's one of the things about being human," Ethan replied, grinning. "Our hearts are always working for us, whether we're sleeping, eating, or running." Zara nodded, completely absorbed. "And when you're frightened or happy, your heart beats faster?" "Yes, emotions affect the heart a lot," Ethan explained. "When we're nervous, excited, or in danger, it speeds up. And when we're calm, it slows down." Zara raised an eyebrow. "So your emotions can physically change the way your body works?" "Exactly," Ethan said. "Humans are strange that way. Our emotions influence not only our hearts, but also our breathing, our muscles, even our thoughts." Zara was amazed. On her home planet, the heart was just a simple organ with a single purpose. It didn't react to feelings or thoughts. But here on Earth, it seemed that the heart and emotions were connected in ways she'd never imagined. The study continued, and Zara moved on to other parts of Ethan's body, fascinated by the different ways human anatomy worked. She studied his hands next, watching how each finger moved with precision. "Why do humans have such flexible hands?" she asked. Ethan spread his fingers, showing off how each one could move independently. "Our hands let us do all sorts of things: build, write, hold things. Each finger has its own muscle and nerves, which lets us use tools and create things. It's a big part of how humans have survived and advanced." Zara nodded thoughtfully, making notes on her small tablet. "Your species is truly unique. Where I come from, we have 4 fingers, but they are not as flexible as yours." The day continued with Zara asking more questions, her eyes lighting up with each new answer. Ethan couldn't help but enjoy her enthusiasm. It was refreshing to see someone so deeply curious about things he took for granted. As the afternoon wore on, Zara asked about human skin. She was particularly interested in the variety of skin tones and textures, which she had never seen on her own world. "Why do humans have so many different skin colors?" she asked, looking closely at Ethan's warm brown skin. "Well, humans come from all over the planet, and different skin tones developed based on where people's ancestors lived. For example, people from sunny places tend to have darker skin, which helps protect them from the sun," Ethan explained. "That's fascinating," Zara murmured. She reached out, curious to feel his skin, and Ethan didn't mind. Zara was surprised by its warmth and softness. She knew it was made up of tiny cells and fibers, but touching it made her realize it was so much more than just a covering. It was alive, sensitive, and responsive. Suddenly, Zara pulled back, feeling a strange sensation in her own heart. She didn't know why, but studying Ethan up close like this was making her feel different. She quickly brushed it off as part of her curiosity, focusing instead on her research. As evening approached, Zara and Ethan took a break, and she found herself staring at him, lost in thought. She had come to Earth to study humans scientifically, but now it seemed that her interest was becoming something more. Her curiosity about his anatomy was slowly expanding into something she didn't yet understand. Ethan noticed her gaze and chuckled softly. "Hey, Zara, everything all right?" "Yes," she replied, feeling a bit flustered. There is so much to learn, and humans are so much more complex than I thought." Ethan smiled, his warm eyes meeting hers. "Well, stick around. You've only scratched the surface." They both laughed, and Zara felt a sense of warmth that she couldn't quite explain. It wasn't in her notes or her data. It was something uniquely human, something she was just beginning to explore. As days passed, Zara's fascination with humans only grew deeper. Her study had begun with anatomy, but it didn't take long for her curiosity to shift toward something more mysterious, human emotions. She had noticed how Ethan's face changed when he talked, laughed, or even when he was deep in thought. His expressions were rich and varied, each one hinting at a feeling she didn't fully understand. Back on Valtor, emotions were simpler. Her people rarely showed them, and when they did, they were brief and subtle. But here on Earth, emotions seemed to flow openly. Humans wore their feelings on their faces, in their voices, and even in the way they moved. Zara was determined to learn about these strange, powerful feelings that seemed to control so much of human behavior. One evening, Zara decided it was time to study emotions directly. She approached Ethan, who was sitting on a bench outside the research center watching the sunset. She noticed the soft look in his eyes as he gazed at the horizon. Without a word, she sat beside him. "Ethan, I want to understand human emotions," she said, her voice thoughtful. "Can you help me?" Ethan looked at her with a gentle smile. "Of course, Zara. Emotions are a huge part of who we are. What would you like to know?" Zara thought for a moment, then pointed to his face. "Right now you look peaceful. What is that feeling called?" Ethan chuckled softly. "That's called contentment. It's a calm, happy feeling, like when you're at peace with everything around you. Watching the sunset gives me that feeling." Zara nodded, noting this down in her tablet. "Contentment," she repeated, tasting the word. "And what about other emotions? I have noticed you look different when you laugh, and also when you're serious. How many emotions do humans feel?" Ethan grinned. "Oh, we feel all kinds of emotions. There's happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and so many more. Sometimes we even feel a mix of them at once." Zara raised an eyebrow. "A mix? How can you feel two things at the same time?" "Well," Ethan began thoughtfully, "take happiness and sadness, for example. Sometimes we're happy to see someone, but we're sad they have to leave soon. It's complicated, but it's just human." Zara tried to imagine what that would feel like, but it was hard. On Valtor, emotions were direct. There were no complex mixtures of happiness and sadness. Her curiosity only grew. "Ethan, I want to experience these emotions. Can you show me how?" Ethan thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right, let's try something simple. I'll show you what happiness feels like." He leaned forward, his eyes bright with excitement. "Close your eyes." Zara closed her eyes, feeling her heart race slightly in anticipation. She felt Ethan's warm hand gently take hers, and her pulse quickened. His touch was so gentle, yet it carried an unfamiliar energy. "Now," he whispered, "think of something you really love, something that makes you feel light and warm inside." Zara thought of her home planet, the shimmering fields of crystal flowers under Valtor's twin moons. A soft smile appeared on her face as she pictured it. She felt a wave of warmth, like a quiet joy spreading through her. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was watching her closely. "That's happiness," he said softly, smiling at her expression. "It feels good, right?" Zara nodded, almost in awe. "Yes, it's so simple, but so powerful. It's like a light inside?" Ethan nodded. "Exactly. That's why humans love to laugh and smile. It's like sharing that light with others." Zara's mind raced as she wrote down her experience, trying to capture this new feeling in her notes. "And what about sadness? What does that feel like?" Ethan's expression softened. "Sadness is the opposite. It's a heavy feeling, like something is pulling you down. It's what we feel when we lose something or miss someone." Zara wanted to understand this too, so she asked, "Can you show me?" Ethan hesitated but agreed. "Close your eyes again." Zara did as he asked, and Ethan continued. Imagine that those crystal flowers you love, imagine they're gone, that you'll never see them again. Zara's face fell slightly as the thought filled her mind. She felt a strange ache, something she hadn't felt before. It was heavy, uncomfortable, a sharp contrast to the happiness she'd felt just moments before. She opened her eyes, her expression troubled. "That's sadness," Ethan said gently. "It's not a feeling we like, but it's part of being human. Sadness helps us appreciate the good times more." Zara took a deep breath, nodding. "It's intense. These feelings are more than I expected. They seem to affect everything, how you think, how you act." She looked at Ethan with a newfound respect, realizing that emotions weren't just surface reactions. They were a huge part of being human. As the evening continued, Ethan explained other emotions. They talked about fear, excitement, love, and anger. Each one was a world of its own, and Zara felt like she was discovering entire universes within a single species. The more she learned, the more she admired the complexity of humans. When they finished, Zara felt something she couldn't quite put into words. A warmth that wasn't just happiness or excitement, but something deeper. She looked at Ethan with a soft smile. "Thank you, Ethan. You've shown me something precious today." Ethan smiled back, his eyes reflecting the same warmth. "Anytime, Zara. Emotions may seem complicated, but they're what make life worth living." As they sat there in comfortable silence, Zara realized that this study had taken an unexpected turn. She wasn't just learning about humans. She was beginning to feel like one. Zara's study of emotions had taken her to new places, ones she hadn't expected. After exploring happiness, sadness, and even fear with Ethan, she was starting to feel connected to him on a level that went beyond simple curiosity. Emotions, she realized, weren't just data or information. They were a way to bond, to understand each other deeply. One day, as they were wrapping up their research, Zara turned to Ethan with a question that had been on her mind for days. "Ethan, I want to understand something important," she began thoughtfully. "Humans often talk about trust. What is it exactly?" Zara's eyes widened, intrigued. "And how do you build this bridge of trust?" "It takes time," Ethan replied. "Trust isn't built in a day. It's created by actions, by showing someone that they can rely on you." "Want me to show you?" She nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want to try this trust with you, Ethan." Ethan grinned, considering how to make this moment memorable for Zara. "All right, I have an idea," he said, his tone playful yet serious. "We'll do an experiment." Zara's curiosity piqued even further. "An experiment? What kind?" Ethan stepped closer to her and held out his hand. "Trust me and close your eyes," he instructed, his voice calm and reassuring. At first, Zara hesitated. Her people rarely closed their eyes in front of others. It was seen as a vulnerable position. Yet she wanted to understand this trust Ethan spoke of, so slowly she closed her eyes. "Now," Ethan said, guiding her gently by her arm, "just follow my voice." Zara felt a strange sensation as she allowed herself to be led. With her eyes closed, she felt a little nervous, unable to see or know exactly where he was taking her. But Ethan's voice was steady and calm, helping her push away her doubts. She followed him, step by careful step, hearing the rustling of leaves, the sound of birds, and even the soft crunch of gravel underfoot. Every sound felt sharper, more intense as she placed her trust fully in him. After a short walk, Ethan stopped. "All right, Zara, open your eyes," he said softly. When Zara opened her eyes, she gasped. They were on a hilltop, overlooking a vast valley where the sun was setting, casting warm orange and pink hues across the sky. The landscape was breathtaking, and Zara felt as if she was seeing Earth's beauty for the first time. "This is beautiful," she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Thank you, Ethan." Ethan smiled, watching her reaction. "This is what trust can bring you. By trusting me, you allowed yourself to be led somewhere amazing." Zara turned to him, a newfound respect shining in her eyes. "I felt vulnerable with my eyes closed," she admitted. "But knowing you were guiding me made it less scary." "That's what trust does," Ethan replied warmly. "It helps us overcome fear because we know we're not alone. Trust means believing in each other, even when things are uncertain." Zara pondered this deeply, her heart feeling warmer than before. The experience had been simple, yet it had shown her a part of the human experience she hadn't fully grasped. "Thank you for showing me, Ethan," she said softly. I think I understand now. Ethan looked at her, sensing a shift in her expression, a depth that hadn't been there before. You did great, Zara. Trust is a powerful thing. With trust, people can achieve amazing things together. She nodded thoughtfully, realizing that this experiment wasn't just about walking with her eyes closed. It was about sharing something meaningful with someone she was beginning to see as more than just a research subject. For the first time, she felt a real connection, like a thin but unbreakable thread that now tied them together. They sat down on the grassy hill, watching the sunset in comfortable silence. Zara leaned back, feeling the cool earth beneath her hands and the warmth of the setting sun on her face. For the first time in her life, she felt she truly understood the power of connection and trust, a feeling that had little to do with logic or data. It was simply human. Breaking the silence, Zara asked, Ethan, do you think your people and mine could build this kind of trust? Ethan considered her question. I think it's possible. Trust between species would take a lot of effort, but it starts small. Just like this. He smiled, meeting her gaze. One person at a time. Zara felt her heart skip a beat, and a tiny smile appeared on her lips. Then let this be the beginning, she said, almost in a whisper. For both of us. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. I'd like that. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Zara realized that her journey on Earth was about more than science or studying human anatomy. She was beginning to understand the depth and beauty of human connections, emotions, and the trust that bound them all together. In that quiet moment, Zara knew that she had found something precious, something she would carry back to her home world.